Hello and welcome to today's video. So today's video is focusing on Edexcel Geography A GCSE. This is the human paper, paper 2 from 2024. We're going to focus on the whole of this paper over the next couple of videos, but they're going to be broken down into slightly smaller chunks so you can go back and use them as part of your revision process. I need to stress very much now that actually exam practice is key to you being successful come the summer exams. We're going to work through the exams together just so we really understand what the expectations are. So, my first bit of advice is that you must always read every single word on the paper. Do not rush it, do not skip forward, because it's very easy to miss instructions and miss questions. So when you come across section A, the expectation is that you will answer all of the questions in section A on changing cities. Our two case studies of changing cities are going to be our developed case study, which is Bristol, and our emerging country city case study, which is Sao Paulo in Brazil. And I'll highlight to you when the expectation is that you will talk about those particular case studies. So let's have a look at what would be presented to you when you open up that paper first of all. So it says Section A, Changing Cities. Answer all questions in this section. Write your answers in the spaces provided. Some questions must be answered with a cross in a box X. If you change your mind about an answer, put a line through the box and then mark your new answer with a cross. So the first question says, study figure 1A in the resource booklet. The resource booklet is a secondary booklet compared to the exam paper, and you'll have to get the exam booklet and you'll have to open it and find the correct resource. So in this case, asking for figure 1A. So you'll open up the resource. I've printed it out here for the moment, and we can see that this is figure 1A. And 1A is a graph, and it's the percentage of urban population in selected emerging countries from 1970 to 2020. And our emerging countries that they've highlighted are Libya, Mongolia, Ecuador and Albania. And we can see how their percentage of population living in cities, in urban areas, has changed from 1970 through to 2020. So our x-axis is about years, and our y-axis is the percentage change, or the percentage of people, who are living in those cities. So we can see all of them have risen from 1970 through to 2020, moving from living in rural communities into urban communities. So if we go back to the question says, identify the country that had the largest increase in percentage urban population between 1970 and 85. So when we have to identify where 1970 is, which is here, and then we're looking for 1985. Well, each of these dashes represents 5 years. So 1970, 1975, 1980, 1985. So what I would be doing in the exam is making sure that you are highlighting and drawing on the positions that you want to draw. So I would highlight 1985 as so you know where you're starting and where you're finishing. So then we need to decide which ones of these have shown the greatest change in population. So when we go to Albania, we can see that it starts in about 20, 30, because these are going up in twos, 32, 33, and it rises to approximately 36. Ecuador starts at 40 and it rises to here. And we're probably moving up from 40 up to 50 to 52. So that's 12 percentage increase. We then look at Mongolia, which starts at 42, 44, 46 and rises up to here, which is going to be 56. So that's increasing by about 10. And we've got Libya, which starts at 62. And it rises all the way up here to it rises up from 52, rises all the way up here to 76. So we can see that that is the largest percentage increase. And even when we look at the graph, we can see that that has had the most dramatic change. Now, the hardest thing about this question is that you're identifying that you're looking for 1985, and that's the cutoff. So we make sure we draw our line, and then we can see who's had the steepest rise. So all we would need to do is go back to our first question here, find Libya, and we'd put an X in the box as so. The next question says, identify Mongolia's percentage urban population in 2010. So we go back to our figure and we find 2010. And again, I would draw a line on 2010 just so you're really comfortable knowing that you're staying on the right year. And we want to know what Mongolia's percentage is in 2010. So we find the black line, we trace it back to 2010. Then we could draw a line from that point across to our graph to help us find. And we know that these boxes are going up in twos, so 62, 64, 66, 68. I've drawn in 68, but it's probably just a little bit higher than that if we have a look there. So I'm saying about 68. Which one's the closest to that? Is it 51? Well, we know it's not 51. We know it's going to be in the 60s, so we know it's not 70. 68 is our closest, so we know the answer is going to be 69. Then it says, as we move on, let me just move this down to this question. State 2 possible reasons for the overall trend in urbanisation shown in figure 1a. So what is the trend? What is actually happening? So we can see that the population, the people are moving from the countryside, the rural areas, into our urban areas, into our city areas. But what is the reason for that? Well, we can talk about why the overall trend is that more people are living in cities. And there are lots of different reasons, and these aren't all of the reasons, but these are some of them. So industrialisation would be one. So the building of factories, attracting people into cities looking for work. There are other reasons that you could write. You could simply write something like rural to urban migration, people moving from the countryside into the cities. You could also talk about education, people moving into cities looking for better education. But the one that I always like to go back to is this idea about natural increase. Why are cities getting bigger? Well, as people are moving into cities because factories are being built and people are attracted into cities looking for work, when people move into cities, they're more likely to meet people, fall in love, start families. So we can simply write something like natural population increase. And that just means people having babies in cities. Fantastic. So natural population increase is a reason why more or a greater percentage of people are now living in cities, and industrialisation, attracting people from the countryside, so people are leaving the countryside, the rural areas, and moving into urban areas, the cities, looking for work. We're going to stop the video there, and please catch us in the next one.